Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about a film that I rented from Redbox recently. I don't even think it had much of a theatrical release earlier this year. It's a film called Terminal, and I'll actually open up the case here just to get a better look at it. This is kind of what the poster of the movie kind of looks like. That's Margot Robbie there, Mike Myers here on the right. Yes, Mike Myers from Wayne's World, and Simon Pegg on that side right there. So this is an independent film I've heard about from a while ago. Like I said, I don't really think it had much of a theatrical release, at least not in the area I lived in, or outside of LA or New York or anything like that. But it appealed to me. It had kind of an interesting look. I remember really being intrigued by the trailer for it, and Mike Myers hasn't been in anything in a while, so I was kind of interested in seeing kind of what his return to film would look like for the first time in a while. So there was just several reasons why I wanted to see this movie. Um, but let's get over what this film is about and kind of how I felt about and everything. So in the film Terminally, guys, it is about a character who's played by Margot Robbie. She's kind of on this deadly mission of sorts that I really can't get into too much detail on, but she is out to kind of go after somebody, I guess you could say. And while this happens, she works a job as a waitress, and she's employee of a strip club, and she's a part of all these things. Um, and throughout the course of this film, she meets a man who's played by Simon Pegg, who's dying of a terminal illness. She tries to help him out along the way. She meets a man played by Mike Myers, who's kind of this night shift train station employee who kind of makes sure that people shouldn't be there after hours, and that people are obeying the rules of the train station and stuff like that. And she also meets two characters who are kind of these underground criminals. One of them is played by Dexter Fletcher of Kick-Ass. For those who ever saw that movie, he was the guy that got crushed in that like car compactor thing in that one scene. So him and his partner are kind of these underground criminals that kind of take any type of work that they get, any type of work that'll give them a lot of money. So Margot Robbie is basically attached to all these characters, and over the course of this film, we start to realize kind of why she is attached to these characters and why she keeps getting involved with these characters' lives, and why she's working all these jobs, how she's able to get to more place than once, it seems like. So there's all these things, all these mysteries that we get to see kind of unravel over the course of this movie. And like I said, Margot Robbie is kind of on this deadly mission of sorts. And like I said, I really can't get into too much detail on that without revealing the movie. So that's kind of what Terminal is about. So overall, guys, I thought Terminal really wasn't that great. There's things about it that I really admire. There's things about it as an independent film that I can respect, just out of a budget, out of being more restrained than maybe a big budget film might have as far as convenience to certain things and certain kind of sets. There is certain things about the film that I like that I'm going to go over, but there's a lot of things about this film that I didn't like that I'm also going to go over. But overall, I'm kind of mixed on this film. Like I said, there's things I like about it, things I really don't like about it, and overall, it's just not a very great movie as a result. So over my positives and negatives of Terminal, I like the futuristic setting of this movie. They did a really good job with the sets. For being on a limited budget, they really did kind of make it look like a Blade Runner type of world. It really does kind of feel like its own thing, which I think is really cool and really respectable. I really like the setting of this film. It really does look really good. Margot Robbie plays a very diverse character in this film. There's a lot of scenes that require her to be very different in certain ways, whether it's sympathetic to a character or really mean to another character or really kind of supporting the fact that she does have a job as a waitress and does have a job as a stripper and does have a job as something else. She really does kind of keep all these things intact, really does a good job of making sure that all these roles get fulfilled over the course of this film, so she did a really good job in this movie. Mike Myers, it was really cool to see him in a film again. I would say kind of his SNL, Wayne's World, Austin Powers-esque type of acting really came into effect when he was this train station employee, kind of this goofy, weird old man that kind of tells you the rules of the train station, make sure that you're not disobeying them and stuff like that. There's definitely a twist to his character that I can't reveal. But like I said, whenever he is kind of that train station employee, is kind of a fun little thing to see him play out in a movie. Simon Pegg is very good in this movie as well. He's in a very difficult situation, I guess you could say. There's a scene that really requires him to kind of be at top of his form as an actor, so he really did a good job in this film as well, I felt. There is a big reveal that definitely explains a lot of things. It's one of those movies where you really don't know what's going on until probably roughly about the last 20 minutes or so of the movie. That's when things start to come together and they kind of tell you what's really happening, and there's a lot of exposition and so forth. So the big reveal, it works. It definitely made up for a lot of the things that didn't make sense throughout the movie. But for me personally, like I said, the big reveal was really cool. Unfortunately, the film that comes before that big reveal kind of isn't very good in some parts. And my other positive for the movie is I do kind of like the anthology approach. They really do make sure that the Simon Pegg story, the Mike Myers story, the story of the two criminals, with one being Dexter Fletcher, and even Margot Robbie's story, kind of get their own screen time, get their own time to get told and stuff like that. It really does kind of feel like a cat's eye creep show, kind of an anthology like that. So I like that approach to this movie. For my negatives, though, and why I think Terminal overall really isn't that great of a movie, I thought the overall feel of this film was a little too overly visual. They really kind of hide the fact that there really isn't a lot of content. Most of the content really is kind of saved to the last 20 minutes of this movie, and the things that come before that last 20 minutes or so is just kind of build up and kind of us seeing kind of what Margot Robbie is doing before her mission gets revealed and stuff like that. So it is very overly visual, which isn't bad. It's just that kind of a style over substance kind of an approach to me to kind of hide the fact that there really isn't a lot of content to be shown in this movie. My other negative with this film is it really does take a while to make its point. Like I said, the last 20 minutes of the film is kind of the real movie here, and everything that comes before it is just kind of set up and conversations that characters have and things that characters get involved with. So it really does kind of take a while to make its point, unfortunately. I also didn't like the fact that there really wasn't any good guys in this movie. There really wasn't that good cop or good person or person that kind of helps out with charities. There really isn't a good person in this movie necessarily. It's by the time the movie's over with, really every character that we were shown throughout this movie is bad in a certain way, and that's one thing about this film I didn't like is I kind of want to see where these good guys are, because you really can't have evil without the good, and you can't have good without evil. I mean, that's something that's been around forever, really, with as far as logic goes in stories. I really wanted to know where the good guys were in this movie. There really wasn't any of them in this kind of movie. And like I said, this film really is style over substance. It really does feel like they spent so much time on the style and look of this film and making sure the sets look great that there really isn't a lot of substance, so they unfortunately go with a more style over substance kind of approach in this movie. This film is also very hard to follow. I would say 50 minutes into the movie, I kind of had a hard time kind of explaining to somebody what this film really is about until, like I said, that last 20 minutes or so. It's about a 95-minute movie, so it's not super long. So it really doesn't take a really, really long time to get to that reveal, but until that reveal happens, it's a very hard to follow kind of a journey of a movie. There's also some really thick accents that some of the characters have. I would say, in particular, Dexter Fletcher's character was kind of hard to understand. He definitely talked like this throughout the movie, and it was kind of hard to hear what he was saying, and it was kind of hard to understand what kind of stories he had to tell us as an audience. And it's just like, this is kind of hard to follow, and it doesn't help that this film itself is hard to follow, so adding the thick accents onto certain characters really didn't help the story at all, really. I also thought, for being such a huge city and being such a huge scope that they were working with in this movie, the town felt like I said, it doesn't even feel like a city. It feels more like a small town. The population of this place felt so small, and really the only kind of living, breathing characters I really could feel in this movie were the characters that we were following around. There didn't feel like any type of like extras or other characters walking around. And sure, a budget is a budget, and you kind of have to play off what you have, but if they want to go with the big city route, make it feel like there's more than just like 10 people living in it, because it really does feel like an abandoned, not very lived in kind of city. So I thought that part of the film didn't really feel believable to me. But like I said, overall, Terminal is a film where I can appreciate the approach. I can appreciate working on a small budget to really kind of make this really unbelievable Blade Runner looking kind of set. And there's some great performances and a great reveal in the movie. But It's very overly visual. It's style over substance. It takes a while to make its point. There really doesn't feel like there's any good guys in this film. It's hard to follow. The thick accents of certain characters are hard to understand. So there's just a lot of things working against it that I really can't recommend you to go see this film. So if you are at Redbox next time, you can probably just skip Terminal. Unless you're like me and you really kind of are interested in seeing what like Margot Robbie or Mike Myers or any of them have worked on in between all these bigger projects that I'm sure a lot of them have been working on. There really is no reason to sit down and watch Terminal. So 5.5 out of 10 for me. Really can't recommend Terminal. Really not a great movie. You can probably skip this one.